we were growing up, it was more of 2 plus 2 is 4. We're always using strokes, count 2 strokes. The other way. Yeah, because it's the method you've taught them that sticks. But let them know there are several ways to still achieve the same result. So you want to add 2 plus 2. You don't have to use strokes. You could draw circles. You could use objects. So let's look at the different processes by which they learn something.
Okay, so welcome to the final episode of our Principles of EYFS series on conversations with AMA. My name is Michael-Ayeni, and today I am talking to a seasoned early years practitioner who happens to be the head teacher in one of the early years nurseries in Lagos, Nigeria, Mrs Oluwadamilola Abraham. So good to have you here. So before we get started, before we start to talk about the final principle of EYFS, which is learning and development, let's get to know you. Let's get to know who Mrs. Abraham is, your journey as an early years practitioner, and how it has been so far.
All right, thank you very much. I've been working with children for over 6 years now, mostly early years, and it's been fun. It's been rewarding in terms of seeing how you transform young children into becoming geniuses in their capacities. Yeah, so I think the first time I was in a classroom, I was a bit scared because when you have this feeling that children will ask questions that you cannot find an answer to. Yes, but somehow the fact that they look up to you to give them answers to questions they have makes you feel important and valued.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. There's been ups and downs with children, with their parents as well. but so far it's been good. It's something I always enjoy doing. I look forward to being around young children, their inquisitive minds, the fact that they want you. It's a lovely experience.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's actually a very good thing to know, that you actually love and enjoy working with them. So let's get to the topic. We're talking about the final principle of EYFS, which is learning and development. We started from the unique child, positive relationships, the enabling environment, yes. And today here we are talking about learning and development. Now, how do these 4 principles, from your own perspective, how do these 4 principles connect with one another to give a complete picture of what early childhood education is about?
Okay, so basically, once you understand what each principle is easier to connect, to see how they connect to themselves. So I'll start from the first one, which is a unique child, right? So before any learning development can take place, you need to understand that each child is unique. Each child is an individual being. So before you even start with the teaching, the learning process, when you understand that a child is unique, you understand that this child has his or her strengths, has weaknesses, has interests, has motivations. So once you're able to recognize each child's learning style or interest in your class, it also helps you build the relationship with that child. The way you relate with child A will not be the same way you relate with child B. So once you are able to build that connection, the children in your class see that they are valued, see that they can trust you, right? It makes the learning process easier. Now, because you know that each child is unique, each child has interest, a child may love cars, another child may like animals. So it helps in planning or setting up your environment. So now, when you're setting up a lesson and you know that this child loves working with cars, this child loves working with animals, it helps you set up your environment. So you're trying to see that each child is carried along in your lesson. So the child sees, oh, there are cars here. The child's interest is already aroused to that lesson. And then the child's interest is there. The child is already motivated to that lesson. That is when the learning and development can then take place. So if you do not understand a child's interest or a child's strength in your class, somehow it has a way of inhibiting or reducing the flow of the learning. For example, I have a child in my class who is not fascinated by beads, and my lesson is on counting, and I bring beads. The child may not really want to participate, but when I bring in items that the child loves, then I'm certain that they for that day. So that's how they are connected. So they are all interconnected. So you can't have one and not have the other. So you need to know the child, form that bond, then set up the environment or the classroom to suit the needs or the interest of that child. Then learning can take place.
Okay. I love how you connected everything. That is fantastic. So the first thing is knowing the child, knowing that this child is unique. And then the next thing is that uniqueness, that interest that you have identified would help you to plan and set up your environment. So you make the environment enabling because you know the child, and then you build a relationship with the child, you form that bond with them, and then that would actually help to achieve that learning and development goal. That is fantastic. I think if that's something that a lot of early years teachers understand, they will be able to work with the children accordingly. So you know that it's not about you, it is more about the child. That is fantastic. So that takes me to my next question. Now I know that in most of our Nigerian setting, even though they are using the EYFS framework and all of that, there's always a struggle with structured teaching and play-based learning. It feels like I have a particular time. This is a time I want to work with. My timetable says 40 minutes. I want to work with 40 minutes. So they want to actually give that structured teaching, but they also want it to be play-based so that the children can be carried along. So help us here. When there is that issue, when there is that problem of how do I manage the time that I have to achieve structured teaching and play-based learning to support their development, how can teachers find the balance?
Okay, so basically, we need both in every lesson, right? So when we blend both well, it leads to holistic learning and development. Okay. So usually, many a times we are trying to work with the time and the objectives, but one thing we fail to realize is that children learn best through play. So we need to find a way of harnessing both. So for example, you have a 40 minutes lesson. So you always start with your starter, right? To arouse the children's interest, which could be 3 to 5 minutes thereabouts. Now, the next thing is you bring in your structured learning, which has to do with you talk, and lead to engagement with the children. So you're talking about, for example, shapes, right? We're learning about the shape circle. There's a circle, it goes round. You're bringing objects for the children to touch. Now that is your structured learning. Now make that about 10 minutes, because these children, they are young, and then when you're just talking, trust me, their minds are already going fast. What do I want to do? They already look like that is distracting. They already look at the toy that they want to go and now make your structured learning very short, 10 minutes max, 15, and then go into the play-based learning. Now that same circle that you have taught, bring in activities. So you have some children that love to move around, they like to hop. Bring in a hopping game. So print your flashcards or cut cardboards of circular shape, right? put them on the floor, around the class. Now let's do it. Children are now doing more of play, right? They are playing, but they are also learning. So you're now reinforcing the structured learning that you have had before. So now they are hopping. Oh, let's hop. So let's hop on all the circles. So hopping from one circle, you can also move it to cross-curricular links. So where is the red circle? Hop on the red circle. Where is the yellow circle? Hop. Now, size, small circles, big circles, let's hop on them. Now, so children that love to move around, you've engaged them by hopping. You could also do scavenger hunts. So learning is still taking place, but no longer in the structured form, but now in a play-based form. Okay. So they are moving around. Oh, let's look for a circle. Can you find a circle? So you've done 3 to 5 minutes a starter. You've had your structured learning about 10 to 15 minutes. Now you've now had play, which has helped to reinforce all the theories you've been giving the children, right? All the talk. So now it would even stick more, and just when they get home, they'll be telling mommy, I hopped on a circle. So it's even it's also helping them to also remember, because they won't remember if you just had structure, and they won't remember what you taught in class, but they'll remember the fun activities that they had on that lesson.
Right.
Yeah, so you've already had 5 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, another 10 minutes in your worksheets if you have any. You've covered your 40 minutes.
Okay, fantastic. That's good. So basically, start with your fun activity, go into your structured plan, whatever it is that you have outlined, and then take it through play-based activities that would actually help the children to recall. That is fantastic. All right, so now let's talk about observation and assessment. Now, observation is one thing that I know that is key in EYFS. Now, while we know that observation is important, how do you think observation and assessment can be used to support children to learn at their own pace?
Okay, so, why it's very important is learning takes place from known to the unknown, right? So when you have a child coming to your class, maybe at the beginning of a new session, we have what we call baseline assessments. Okay. So that way you are able to identify what the child knows, the extent to which the child already has an idea of a particular topic. Okay. So it helps you to build further on what the child needs to learn. For example, if you are teaching the reception class, and at the start of your class, the child should be able to identify or write numbers 1 to 50, for example, and a child comes into your class, you've observed the child the first week of school, and that child is already writing 1 to 50. So which means you will not stop there. So the child already knows how to do this. So it helps you know how to help the child learn more. So this child already knows this. Let me see how far I can push the child to learn more. Okay. But if the child at the beginning of your class could only write 1 to 10, so okay, so this child can conveniently write 1 to 10. Now, this is where the child needs more support in moving further, catch up with the other peers in the classroom. So it has a way of allowing you to identify where the child is right now, and also where the child needs to be, and also identify the process you may need to take to help the child, because some children learn very fast, some take their time, and they all have different ways by which they learn. Some may prefer to write with markers, some may prefer to write with pencils, right? So it also has a way of helping you to also plan your lesson. Okay. So when you're also making your lesson plan, you are thinking, okay, so I want to use these resources. Okay, this child is a visual learner. Okay, so when I'm teaching this concept, I need to play videos. Oh, this child is kinesthetic. So because you've already observed and you daily observe your children, you are also able to better plan your class. Also, while you're teaching a particular topic, right? you may realize that the methodology you plan to use along the line wasn't giving you the result you anticipated. So it's through the observation you can now say, okay, no, let me tweak it this way, let me try something else to also help that child or make the class more interesting, more engaging. It also helps us to identify children that may have additional needs. So that's the major reason why it's very important to observe, not just at the beginning of the school year, but on a daily basis. Observe their progress, observe how well they're doing, observe their interests, their weaknesses, and things like that.
Okay, fantastic. So I've seen that you've mentioned how important observation and assessment are. So just as we know that the principles of EYFS are important, you need to understand the uniqueness of the child. You need to understand that the environment must be enabling. You need to understand that positive relationships are to be formed with them, and then for you to have learn and development. You have also helped us to understand that observation and assessment in the EYFS is key. And from what you have said, you daily observe your children and it helps you to better plan for your lessons. I think that is one thing every teacher needs to take away from this, because a number of times we teach teachers just planning lessons and coming to deliver. So they're coming to deliver based on what they think the children should know. But now it is worthy to note that it is that observation that would inform your planning, and then the ongoing assessment would help you to check what level the children are in, like you mentioned, the baseline that you would do at the beginning of the term. Thank you very much, Mrs. Abraham. So now let's come to parents. I had some questions that I had written down on how positive relationships can shape the quality of learning and development, but I've seen now that I don't need those questions because you've already answered them already. Thank you. So many parents want to support learning at home. There are parents who feel like, okay, I want to help my child to shine in school. I want to help my child to excel in this area and that area. But we've always noticed that in most cases, they don't know how best to do it. So sometimes the support the parents are giving might even start to contradict what the teacher is giving in school. So what would you recommend for parents when they want to support their children's learning and development? What would you recommend as the best ways that they can actually support at home?
All right. There are several ways parents can actually support at home. But one thing that parents need to also know is that every school's structure is different. The way a school may want to teach a particular concept will differ from another school. And then there are so many curriculums that we have now. Some people do British, some do Nigerian, some do Canadian. So I think parents need to also understand, okay, so ask questions, right? So what curriculum do you use in your school? So that can also help, because you've had parents that want to teach their children letters, but they are teaching them letter names rather than starting with letter sounds, right? So it's always good for parents to ask these questions. Okay, so I don't think there's nothing wrong with a parent asking a teacher, okay, so you are teaching these letter sounds. How do I teach it? So, okay, so this letter, how do you sound it? Because I know of children who are older that will tell their parents, no, that's not how my teacher said you should pronounce. My teacher said this. So it also helps parents to also ask questions. Okay, so please, my child says this. So what do you think about it? Okay, so how can do you have videos, links that could also help me as a parent support my child? So that's one way parents can also support. Another way is regular conversations. Many a times we parents, we get right, and dad is asking questions, you're like, please leave me, no, see, I'm tired. But that way we are shutting them out. But when you have regular conversations, it also builds their confidence, right? It builds vocabulary, it builds their communication skills. So have conversations. How was school today? Oh, what did you do in school today? Did you have fun? What activities did you enjoy the most? Oh, really? Did you have story time? What story did you listen to? So regular conversation also helps with their vocabulary. It also helps with their thinking skills. So they're trying to recall, oh, okay, the story, was it the tortoise and the hare? Was it the hare? So they're trying to also recall. So they're also
the
building
information.
Yeah. Also, you could also have story time. I know we're always very busy, right? But I don't think at least one story in a week is too much. Just sit down with them, read stories. They may not respond for children that are younger, but at least they will see pictures. So they're identifying pictures. Oh, look at this. It's a bird. What color is it? It's red. So it also helps. Another thing that also helps children is when they engage in house chores. I'm not asking you to tell them to mop the floor, but simple chores like, okay, you know what? You scattered your toys. Can you tidy up? So as they are packing up the toys, you are asking, let's count the toys together. 1, 2. So they are learning to tidy up. They are learning to count. They are learning to also identify colors, size, right? So can you pick the big ball first? Can you pick the small toy first? So while doing house chores, they have learned to follow instructions. 1-way, 2-way instruction. Pick the toy and put it in the basket. So they may think they are having fun, but they are also learning. They're also building on their counting, giving their fine motor skills by picking and dropping in the basket. They're also building their fine motor skills. Also, while they are maybe eating lunch, you could ask questions. Oh, so do you know how I made the food? Because I know children like to do a lot of role play in the kitchen if they have kitchenettes in school. So, okay, so what do you think I added to the food? Is it spicy? So they are building a lot of things. So even if they are eating maybe rice that has, let's count the veggies. Let's go, oh, can you see what's this? It's a carrot. Oh, this is sweet corn. So they're also learning to be familiar with things in their environment. So there are several ways parents can help. So it doesn't have to be when you say, bringing out a book, let's write one. No, there are also fun ways by which your children will also learn at home while they are with you.
Okay, I like how you ended it, letting us know that it's not necessarily by giving them books to write, because that's what you see all the time. Write 1 to 20, write 1 to 50, and then they say, no, my child cannot write. I like that you have helped us to understand that it's not only about writing. There is that vocabulary development. There is helping them to build up on their one-to-one correspondence, their counting objects, their understanding 1-way and 2-way instructions. There's a whole lot. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next question will be for teachers. Now, what's that practice shift? Because you know that teachers always have those ways that they think that this is the way. If it's not this way, it's no other way. What is that practice shift that you would like to recommend to teachers, early years teachers who are maybe using Montessori, EYFS, whatever approach that they are using? What is that shift you want to recommend to them that would help them to align with the learning and development principle in EYFS?
Okay, I was saying majorly one issue we have as teachers is once we set up our lesson plan and we have our objectives, our focus is I need to just meet the objectives one way or the other.
Right.
So what your mind is just on, did I finish all the objectives for the day? But I think we should move from trying to finish up all the objectives to the process of the learning. So rather than saying, oh, I have 3 objectives, I must finish or I must complete the 3 objectives for the day, at the process of the learning, right?
Right.
So how did the children learn what you were teaching for that day? Were they engaged? Because what's the point of you saying you were able to meet up all your 3 objectives, but the children did not really learn anything concrete? So it should be more about their engagement in the lesson. Were they curious, right? Did they engage completely? While we were growing up, it was more of 2 + 2 is 4. We're always using strokes, counts, 2 strokes. The other way.
Particular way.
Yes, because some children, it's the method you've taught them that sticks. But let them know that there are several ways to still achieve the same result. So you want to add 2 plus 2. You don't have to use strokes. You could draw circles. You could use objects. So let's look at the different processes by which they learn something. So let's move from this object, following or meeting up my objectives, to the different ways. Okay, for example, I want to work on painting. There are different ways we can paint today. A child can decide to do finger painting. Another can decide to use brush. Another can decide to use stamping pads. But you're still going to achieve the same result. So rather than focusing on just one way, teach them the other ways by which they can still arrive at the same answer. If you want to cook jollof rice, there are different ways of cooking jollof rice. You don't have to stick to the methods our parents taught us, which was outcome. But let's look at the processes by which you can still achieve the same results. So for me, it's all about the process, because EYFS focuses on play. We talk about exploring. So let them explore the different ways by which they can still do the same thing. So if they are learning about quantity, don't give them only a jar of water. Give them a basket and balls. Give them sand, other ways, so they know that it's not only a jar of water that is full or half full. A basket also can also be full or half full.
Right.
Yes. It also builds their confidence, their thinking skills, their creativity.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. So teachers move from focusing on the objectives to focusing on the process and teach your children multiple ways other than the traditional methods. Thank you. Okay, so we're getting to the end gradually. So I would ask to say, if you have to summarize the 4 principles of EYFS to parents or educators in order for them to see how important these 4 principles are in any early years classroom. Any early years classroom, because some people might say, oh, my school is a Nigerian school, it can't really work. But in any early years classroom, how can you summarize the 4 principles for parents and educators so they know how important it is?
Okay, so basically, every child, right, needs a warm and safe relationship with an adult, whether it's a teacher or a parent or a carer. Every child needs a warm relationship with an adult or a carer or a parent, because it will help the child thrive in their learning when you are able to set up a safe environment or a stimulating environment. So the first thing is just, you need to have the child's interest at heart. When you have a child's interest at heart, you would want to get close to that child. You want to form a bond with that child. And because you have bonded with that child, you want that child to thrive. So which would now help you, even as a parent, to ensure that the environment is stimulating, is rewarding, it leads to the responses that you want. So it's all about the child. So the child is like your focus. A child determines every other aspect. The child determines the learning. The child determines the bond you would form, and the child still determines the way the environment will be set up.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm trying to write that down. It is all about the child, and the child determines the focus. So we hope that our dear parents would listen to this and see that it is about the child. It's not about your neighbor's child who is able to do one thing. It is not about your friend's child who is able to hold a pencil and write at age 2. It is about your child. What does your child need? What is your child able to do? How can you work at your child's space? The child might even have strengths that the other children do not have, and it is important to focus on it, because you might end up overlooking your child's strengths if you are focusing on what your child is not able to do over what others can do. So thank you very much for this important point. It is all about the child. So finally, I would say, what is your biggest piece of advice for anyone working with children to ensure that learning and development is both meaningful and joyful?
Okay, so identify every child in your class. Identify the interest of every child in your class, and set up your lesson in a way that every child's needs will be met.
Right.
Whether they are high flyers, middle learners, or low learners. Once you know each child's strength, you know each child's interest, you'll be better prepared to plan a lesson that meets the need of every child in your class. That is when learning becomes rewarding. Because if you focus your lesson plan on just your high flyers, what happens to the middle
children?
Yes. Or if you focus your lesson on just your low learners, what happens to your high flyers? That means you are trying to drag them backwards. That's why we do a lot of differentiated instruction learning now, so that way you're able to meet every child's needs.
Okay, fantastic. So it's important to get to know the children and then make it a rewarding journey for them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Abraham. It has been a wonderful time getting to talk about learning and development with you. And we hope that you'll be available to come back again next time when we have more questions.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, then. Have a wonderful day.
And you too. Bye.
Bye for now.